Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, I'm going to date stamp this. It is year 5, blog 6. And in legacy numbers, it's blog number 214. And it's dated 29th of March, 2026. Yes, and it's been an interesting week. And usually I look out the window and look at the weather. It's quite bright, quite sunny. But most of my mindset has been on looking after my mother this week, prepping. And I think the theme really in my mind today is optimism and change. Obviously there's going to be a lot of changes in my life, looking after my mum when she comes back. Optimism is low. Normally I would be very optimistic, but you know, I was backing up all of my blogs. Want to make sure that if anything happened, I'd have backups of stuff. And I was looking at all of the changes that I've done, and I've noticed that, you know, there was a big chunk of the last, 4 months where I've done next to nothing for myself, you know, videos on gameplay or talking about films or my hobbies. And mostly it was blog nothing, blog nothing, blog nothing. And that's sad, but I also look at it as, is that the new norm? And it saddens me. I've done everything that I possibly can. It's been one of those sort of times where I've done a lot of reflection. But we'll talk about my week a little bit later on. And we'll just start off with the news. And I've been listening to next to nothing on the news. I've been going to the hospital, coming back, doing some prep around the house for new equipment, and pretty much exhausted by the end of the night and not wanting to do anything. Do you get those times where you mean to do something and then you haven't got time to do it? When you get to the end because you're just too tired? That's pretty much how it's been for 3 to 4 weeks now. So, news. Okay, so this is what I picked up on the web. It says anti-far right protests. That was the heading. It says organisers claim over 500,000 people gathered in central London on Saturday for a march to stop the far right, described as one of the largest multicultural protests in the UK as a response to the rise of right-wing figures and the Reform Party. It's all politics, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, everything is politics, war, everything like that. It gets so boring talking about all of these things. It's the news. That's all I can tell you. And that was one of the top stories. The other top story was the, as always, Iran war and domestic impact. So this was stating that concerns are growing on fuel and medicine shortages over this Iran war. The PM has been vocal on US military strategies to avoid deeper involvement for the UK. Now, a lot of people will have their own opinion on this. I suppose I've got one or two, not really worth bringing in, because you start talking about it and then people start getting there. Oh, you think like this, do you? And you shouldn't think like this. What about these people over here and all of this sort of stuff? It's hard for everyone. That's all I will say. And war, I just want it to end. Always have, always will. I don't think there's anything in it for anybody, really, to be quite honest. I do understand the fight to remain how you are And I always think that when a war breaks out, it's somebody that's greedy or wants something and they haven't got it, so they go for it, and then the other side is protesting and go for the attack on the other side. It's what can you say about it other than I want it to be right, combat what's wrong about it, and end as fast as possible. Hopefully diplomatic way. Right. Another top story is social media regulation. The government has issued new guidelines for parents to limit screen time for children under 5 to have under 1 hour for devices like phones and tablets to ease possible addiction. Yeah, good thing. It's for under 5s. I think you could extend this to more. It's very difficult. I know that there's been a lot of news stories showing schools and how they've been combating it, but this is about general life, and good. We've got regulations coming in. Only good story I saw was, and it depends on your view, it's the NASA Artemis 2 crew. They've arrived in Florida for the upcoming mission to the moon in April. Well, I like anything to do with space, so that interests me. The moon mission, I'm very, positive and intrigued about it. It's been a long time, and maybe this is, you can always turn around and say it's the wrong time, but when is the right time? You have to look at these things and go, is there ever a right time? Whenever you turn around and say, right, I'm going to target this, something happens like a war or an economy problem, recessions, all of this sort of stuff. And you can keep putting off and off and off all the time. You've got to, at some point, say, there's never a right time. And that's how I look at that. And that's really all the news that I've got. None of it really I have an opinion on too much. Because, like I say, you go one direction, somebody will spark off another. So sometimes things aren't right. But I just want to stress that this is always marked up as a Vblog. It's not. It's a diary. It's a diary on my thoughts. So what I'm doing is I'm giving people an insight into what's going on in my life. It's not I'm not a blogger. I don't go out and go, let me report on this, let me report on that. But there isn't really a category called diary. And I do this as a sort of a legacy thing, and I allow insight into it, where people can look at it and go, that's interesting. Or they could go, I'm dead against that. Or you could look at it and go, that's a positive thing. I hope that works out. And I've always turned around and said I'd be doing this every Sunday. I could make it a subscriber only. I could do this and hide it and never show it. And it all depends on whether this is something that I've had in me for many, many years. I like constructive criticism. I do not like destructive criticism. And what does destructive mean to me? Well, destructive would mean to me where somebody comments and it's just all negative with nothing in it to say why. Do you know what I mean? It could be like somebody turning around and saying, you do this, what a worthless thing it is to do. Where they have no idea what, that hobby or feeling or trait is. Do you know what I mean? They haven't gone and looked at other videos on that particular topic, say, and so put words like waste of time, worthless, that sort of thing. And I have to look at those and go, I get where you're coming from. I really do. but have you thought about the worth to the person that's doing it? Do you think about the fact that if it's not for you, that you don't need to watch it? That sort of thing, right? So a constructive criticism would be, you know, based on, say, the topic that you're doing. Is that the right time to talk about it? Is this the right thing to do? Is there, could you have gone into more depth with it because you've given nothing other than show something off? That sort of thing, right? That's a criticism, and it's constructive, because you could go around and say, what I would have done is possibly do this way, that way, this time. You could have given some background on how it started, or no, I don't want to know about the background, I just want to see the thing. That sort of thing's constructive. Do you see what I'm getting at? So I value that some people will do it, but I notice that for some people it's more about a hit out, and I don't think that's the right thing to do. And I think certain circumstances as well mean that it can be quite harmful mentally for the person that's doing it. It can put people off and go, oh, better not do that. But at the end of the day, I do it because I do it for my family, I do it for me, and I do it as a possible interest for others. If there's no interest for others, don't watch it. That's how I look at it. It's not to be shunned upon. Always embrace that somebody has got an interest in something, and then it could be something that you might be interested in. But don't be so negative that you just basically do a hate comment. Do you see what I mean? And I do look at it as a hate comment. And from that point of view, it can be quite upsetting. So to those people that are doing that, try to think about that. You know, I'm not saying stop what you're doing. I'm saying think about, is this a comment that is so negative? It can be absolutely wrong in the statement because you're looking at it from a totally different point of view. Do you see what I mean? I've had lots of comments, you know, in the past. I've had people turn around and say, I could not watch this any further because it's so bad, and that I really can't. I really think that you shouldn't have even shown it because it's my favorite thing. Or other people might turn around and say, that hobby, it's a complete waste of time. Why do you need to do that? You're in a situation where you should be concentrating on this. Think about these things. I do that because I'm trying to take my mind off of something that's taking up all of my time, and I need to reset my mental health. That's how I look at those sort of things. So I just wanted to put out there that this is a diary, right? It's a diary, and I allow people to look at that diary, and you can go away and have a think about it, that with all these things that are going on, some bright things are going on, or these things are having a really big impact. And that's what this is all about, if you see what I mean. So, you know, I really can't say any more than that, really, other than what's my week been like. Well, luckily, I've been now able to go to the doctors. They looked at my knee. The bruising has mostly gone away. The swelling is still there. And they told me exactly what the nurse told me a couple of weeks ago, that you've probably torn the scar tissue in your back. It's going to take time because scar tissue does not meld like normal healthy tissue, and so it won't meld very well. So I've irritated nerves and muscles that are now making it very difficult for me to be comfortable. You're probably noticing, if you look at previous videos, that I'm not sitting exactly straight. I'm uncomfortable. I'm moving from side to side. That's because I'm feeling the uncomfortableness. This is an orthopedic chair, by the way, and I can't show you this because it doesn't reach up, but it's got one of them pumps that pushes into your back. But I can sit in it for about an hour and a half now. It was about 30 minutes the first week, and so I'm having to do exercises to stretch, and that's why you'll find pauses and all sorts of stuff, because it's become so uncomfortable. So I managed to see a doctor. I've got my fit note here. I've got to send that to work. I've been in touch with work, explaining to them what's going on. In the most part, they've been very good, but they have told me that if I wanted anything to do with compassionate, it would be done on a no pay basis. I don't need to go down that route because I was injured. But I do find it not very compassionate for someone to come around and say, you could take it off as holiday, when my mother's had a big operation on her leg and it's a major change and things are going to have to change in the house and I need time to adapt and deal with that. So you'd think it would be under compassionate, but their guidelines seem to indicate, oh, you can have the time off. We're very good about that, and your job is safe and everything, but we're not going to pay you for that. And I'm just going, wow, good job that, you know, in some ways that I got injured because I can then claim sick. But wow, when you think of a company as always sending you emails saying, we're having a mental health day and here's all this guidance and here's all these people that can be a source for you to use to help you get through this. And you have this happen to your mum when you're a carer as well. And they turn around and say, well, we'll just give you the time off, but sod you in regards to payment. You know, but anyway, that's just a little bit of a bad taste I got from work. In the most part, work has been absolutely fantastic, and I won't fault them for it. So, you know, I'm ill at the moment. I've got a time scale that I want to go back to work in, and that's going to happen. That's all I can say about that. So that's happened for me. The rest of my time has been in regards to my mum and what's happening to her and what I need to do. So under me, I will add that it's been a lot of phone call making. I've had people phone me up in regards to equipment to deliver. The first call came through saying we need to deliver a mattress with a compressor, for which I then had to tell them, whoa, before you do that, you do realise that we need the bed moving. And they said, oh, that's a different department. You'll need to phone this number, for which I phoned that number and I got an answer machine to then actually turn up with the compressor the next day. And I told the guy, can you just put it over there? There's no point assembling it because the bed is going to be moved. And he had a little look round and he said, here's some things that you need to concentrate on and then phone this number, for which I did. He actually gave me some very good advice. And I then phoned up and they then realised what was going on. And they told me to go and speak to the physio at the hospital, for which I didn't have to book an appointment. The person came to the bed to see my mum. So I'll talk about that in my mum's side of things. Now, what that gained was a visit by that person to take some photographs of the room if it was okay. And I said, I give you total okay to take a photograph of this one room. There's nothing in it that you can actually get any addresses or anything from, so I'm happy with that. And then we talked and measured the bed, and then measured the room, and then talked about the other bits of equipment. And it was 45 minutes, and the person went away, and things moved very, very quickly from that moment. And that was Thursday. Yeah, so Thursday was a very busy day. And Friday, it was all turned into this is happening Monday. So I've got I had this window of Friday, Saturday, Sunday to get the house or that room ready. And that's a 3-day period. And really, I look at these things and say, why couldn't this have been done in a much more staggered way and do this in the second week so that I had more time? But it's always a get this ready, now discharge. Do you see what I mean? It's almost like a conveyor belt type thing. And this is where you feel like you're a number more than anything. And that can make you feel very negative with what's going on. But that's pretty much been my week. I did buy a second-hand standing whisk. Now, you'll probably go to yourself, why buy that? Well, I wasn't going to buy a new one because I'm not a cook, somebody who cooks. But my mother's in a situation where she's in assistive eating and easy chew. And what that basically means, soft things, not hard things, having difficulty swallowing, so you need to give plenty of water. Based on the dementia and the vascular dementia, helping with eating like you do with a baby, and soft food, so there's not so much debris. So it'd be things like mashed potato, cottage pies, veg that's quite soft, broccoli, carrots, peas, good foods, fish, that sort of stuff. And, you know, the whisk would help with things like making like really soft mashed potato, you know, rather than use a masher and all of this sort of stuff. So my sister's the cook, but she can't cook things at home and bring it. Why not do it at the house? But I looked at whisks and bloody hell, aren't they expensive? I mean, there was some really cheap hand ones for 10 or 20 quid, but you need a mixing bowl, which I haven't got. And then you've got all the utensils that go into it. There's a whisk and a kneader and all of this sort of stuff. Right, wow, the amount of work I had to do investigating all of this. And then there are standing whisks, which have got motors of 1,000 watts and 1,500 watts and all these things. And you can get them probably around about 60 quid. And they go up to ones like that are made by a company called KitchenAid. Those are like £500. And I'm not a bloody cook. Jesus. So I looked at the cheapest ones that were done by people like G-Pass and stuff like this. And Amazon do this refurbished line. You know, if you're not a cook, have this. It's got a warranty and a guarantee like anything else. But just understand it's refurbished. Or a returned item but it's been inspected. It's just like new, they call it. And it's a cheaper option. So this G-Pass was, I think it was £80, $79.99, something like that. Had a metal mixing bowl, loads of utensils, 1,000 watts, all different speeds, blah, 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 blah. I got it for £36.99, boxed with all the utensils, inspected, refurbished, sent to your house next day. So I bought it. Told my sister, she said, oh, very good. Thanks very much. And I told her the reason for it. And she said, good thinking. But it is one of those things where, again, it's do we really need it? Have we got the space for it? Which then started the whole, space. Now that's interesting, because I've never really looked at the kitchen cupboards as my own. They're my mum's, and it's got part of my old house in there, and it's got my mum's stuff that she's had for years and years and years, and it needed a big tidy up. So I started to get some cardboard boxes together, and I started putting plates and cups that we never use. We've got best china teacups and stuff that have never been used, because nobody really turns up unless for a tea party, but they do turn up and have a chat. We give them a mug of tea, a mug, you know what I mean? Just a standard mug, cup of tea, you know, not done in a teapot or anything like that. Tea bag, hot water, put some milk, take the tea bag out. There you are, cup of tea. So I started to put these huge dinner plates and bigger tea plates, because there's no longer my dad here. My sister's now moved out. She's got her own house and her own family. So it's just me and my mum. So are we really going to need those plates that many? We've got 6 dinner plates, 6 oversized dinner plates, cups with saucers, all this sort of stuff. So I started to take that out, wrap it up in cardboard and bubble wrap, put it in the boxes, label it up as crocks, mixed crocks of cups and plates, mum and me. Wrap it all up and then think about where I'm going to put it. So I started to do that, and I got rid of lots of crap. You wouldn't believe how much Tupperware and little containers that you've got for sandwich boxes. I picked them up, and there's no lids. So anything that didn't have a lid got chucked out. Anything that I kept things like 3 dinner plates. That's 1 for mum, 1 for me, 1 for my sister, and put all the others to one side. So I've got a maximum of 3 tea plates, 3 breakfast bowls, 3 this sort of stuff. And the only things that I kept were things like casserole dishes. Now, if I found 5 casserole dishes, I'd look at them and see that I need a small one and a large one. The medium one could bugger off. That means I've got 2 casserole dishes. I don't need 5, so I put the other 3 in a box. That's what I've been doing all week, and this takes a lot of time and effort. So the kitchen is looking in the cupboards a little bit better. Not fantastic, but better. And I've done what I can with the sofa. I found out that the people that are going to assemble the bed will move the bed for me, so I don't need to find anybody to help. So that's great. Then I needed an extension cable, so I bought an extension cable that is used. I bought one that was not, it doesn't matter about the all-weather aspect of it, but it's got what they call a thermal shutoff and a surge protection. And it's got 4 plugs, because the bed needs to plug in, plus the compressor needs to plug in, plus whatever a piece of equipment we might need to put in for getting my mum out of bed, called a hoist, and then 1 spare for doing hoovering. Right, so there we are, 4. So you need a 4-plug extension cable, and it needed to be 15 meters. That's from the plug tacked round the room to the point where it's under the bed, and when you're measuring it, it's very difficult. So I measured it and thought I need 10, but I bought a 15 just in case. And that means that the longer it is, the more expensive it is. And it was important to have the surge protection and everything else with it. So that was bought. That's the only thing that I've really bought this week. And it was something that needed to be done. And when I talk about money here, all I'm saying is it's a challenge. It's not something that, I need help with. It's just that it does take a resource, and it takes it away from stuff that you buy for yourself. You've got nothing to buy for yourself. In fact, I'll touch upon this. Any video that I've done has been done with next to nothing output in cash. Some of the stuff that I've been doing is from last year. So I bought it last year before all of this stuff was happening. So it's not like, I bought an expensive item that cost 80 quid or something. It was bought last year. The only thing that's been coming through to me is my film collection stuff. I pre-order stuff 3 months in advance. And I've mentioned it before, where I was buying just about everything because I had a cash, able to do it, if you see what I mean, savings. Yeah. I've cut that all down. I cut it to a quarter. So you've got to have something for yourself. You can't go through life doing everything for somebody else, because you've got a life yourself, and you have to look at those savings. And I've started to put money towards savings again, and that meant cutting down the payments to cards. And then those cards are less used to buy these items that I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about in regards to money. It's never a thing about this, that, and the other in regards to you know, shortages, poverty, that sort of word I'm trying to use. It's all about a surprise, you know, like I never thought I'd need 4 tires. I never thought I'd need a battery. I never thought of this, that, and the other, which is then a challenge. Do you see what I mean? Always look at things as a challenge. And that's how you got to do that, really. So when it comes to my mum, we've had some really good days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was a highlight for myself and my sister. We walked into the hospital and my mum would mostly be sitting up out of the bed in a chair. And that's because they're trying to get my mum to exercise her legs, put her in a chair and be more awake. And that was great for a couple of days. But unfortunately, the last couple of days, Friday and Saturday in particular, my mum's been in bed and she's been asleep nearly all the time, hardly awake, not reading her paper. And we're making her eat with her eyes shut because she's just not interested, not wanting to wake up. And that's a concern for my sister and I. And it also stops the exercise of the legs, and therefore it's going to be harder when she gets home to get her out of bed. So, because this time in the hospital is done by people that are trained in this. Other changes that are going to be needed are where this bed sits, we're going to have to get round both sides because we're going to have to rotate my mum from left to right to put on her pads, because obviously going to the toilet is going to be difficult. So we've got to look into getting different types of pads, the pads that have Velcro on rather than you pull up, because my mum's got an injured leg that needs to be, you know, have time to mend. The scar tissue's got to go down. It's got to heal. And so turning and everything is going to be painful, which is why we wanted to stand up and sit up, because she'll be alert and awake. That sort of thing is the challenges that I always talk about. For the most part, it's been one of those times where we're there for my mum. My sister and I have general conversations about, do you remember as kids we did this? Do you remember that? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? But most of the time we're looking at our phones, looking to see how we can help with this, learning about what this disability is going to be like, all of that sort of stuff. And I've also tried to watch some of the things to keep my mental health going by watching videos that my friends have done. So, but when it comes to my mum, the leg is healing. She's itching it. We've got bandages on it. They're getting her out of bed. She's sitting up. We're getting through the eating and drinking phase, and we're prepping for getting her home. And in most part, we've been really excited when she was alert one day for 4 hours. She was up, awake for 4 hours. The talking is still 1 word, 2 words, sentences no longer than 5 words, like, oh, my giddy aunt. That is bad, isn't it? It's about the longest sentence my mum has said. Otherwise, it's, do you want a cup of water, mum? Yes. Do you want a cup of tea, mum? Yes. No. Can you hear me? Yes. Do you know who I am? Yes. You are. And she'd mention my sister's name, Tracy, whatever. That sort of thing. And when you consider that your mum used to be an incredibly chatty person that would hold a conversation, these are the things that we're noticing now are diminishing day by day. And that's the sad thing. Stuff all the rest, you know, like, oh, my God, isn't it going to be bad changing my mum's toiletry things and all of this sort of stuff? That's a quality of life thing that I'm happy to do. It's the noticeable change in what made your mum your mum. And that's hard. That's the hardest thing. And it gets you upset, makes you cry. I go sometimes away from this camera and I go into the toilet and I'm upset, visibly upset, to the point that my eyes can go red and I'm taking water away from my eyes because tears are there and all of that sort of stuff. And this is not the video for somebody to be sorry at. This is a diary, remember, so I'm expressing what my emotions are. So that's me, that's my mum, that's this week, yes, pretty much. We're prepped for tomorrow. I will be going to the hospital and my sister will knock on the door shortly, and That's why blogs are shorter, but when my mum is at home, everything returns to normal in what I call the new norm. So blogs will be probably back to the way that they were. It's going to be, some might consider change to be exciting. For me, it's not a dread thing, but a difficult thing. That's what I will say. So I think I've got that out the way. And of course, if you do hear a knock at the door, you'll know I'll have to pause. And what we'll do now is we'll go into the shout outs. And like I say, thanks to everybody who watches this. It's all very nice of you to do so. Just remember, it is a diary. And, you know, thank you very much for your concerns and your well wishes. If you've got, have you thought about this might help, please do it. If all you want to put is nitpicking things, think about it before you write it down, is all I'm trying to say, because I'm doing the very best I can, and so is my sister, to help with my mother, which is why the last 3 blogs, so the last 2 and this one, is update on my mum, because it's all about the change, my mum, with a little bit of what my old blog used to be. Do you see what I mean? So shout outs to everybody that's watching this. Sorry, other things I've forgotten to do is turn off the sound on my phone, which I'll do now. And I mean, I've got another one here, but I've got to keep the sound on for that one in case a phone call comes in. Here are the people that have left comments, and these are the people that I'll be talking about shortly. And they are Roberts Retro Gaming, Rocket Bunny, Carl Todd, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, Steve Still Plays Games, Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Martroid, Mainmeister, and Wee Bob. But I just want to say thanks to everybody that hasn't even commented and is still watching. I'll mention some previous names that are not listed here. Denny is one of them. He's got lots of problems going on at the moment in his life, and he needs to concentrate on those, which is why you don't hear that name, and it has nothing to do with we fell out or anything like that. He is just concentrating on him. And there are lots of other people that have that I talk about in here that don't comment too much, but they have commented in the past. 20th Century Gaming, Mainmeister, you know, there are loads, you know, that are just having life things themselves to deal with. But I speak to them outside of the blog. They're just not in the blog. So just remember that. So we had a huge list of names last week. We've got a shorter one this week. That's the way it goes. It doesn't mean falling outs and all of this sort of stuff. I don't know why people think that if they don't hear a name for several weeks, they think that something internal's gone wrong. No, life moves on. What if I was on holiday then? If I fell out with them because I've gone on a 2-week break and I don't mention something? No. See what I mean? It's like people put 2 and 2 together and make 28. It's wrong. See what I mean? So yeah, all of those names, thank you very much. And I'm just going to do a quick pause because I do need to sort of like stretch my legs. My legs are hurting at the moment. And then I'll be back and we're going to read out some of these. Hopefully won't get too many of these little breaks, but I do need to look after myself as well. So for you, it's going to be seconds. For me, it's going to be a couple of minutes. So it won't be long.
And I'm back, and we'll get to the comments. If you hear a knock at the door, you know I'm going to have to pause, and then I'm going to have to speak to my sister, and then talk about whether I pause this and come back to it, which could be many, many hours, or if I just stop it and say that's the end of the blog. These are the things that have to go through my mind. But we'll read these. They're not in any particular order, and the top one that I'm reading out first is from Carl Todd. And he's put, "Hi Del, just a quick comment this week. It was great to hear that your mum was sitting up." Yep, she is. And there's just a bit of a downside this week. I hope her recovery from the operation is going well. It seems to be. I'm just worried a little bit about mobility in the future on this. And I think I have to think now that the new norm will be standing up, hopefully getting her to a chair using a machine, and walking is just gone. Everything will be done by wheelchair now, but her legs will remain strong because we'll be trying to get her up to stand. That'll be the top priority, I think. I hope that your own injury is getting better too. The swelling's going down. That's the good news. When my mother's back here, I might be able to get my walks in again, because at the moment I'm just walking to the hospital and walking back, which is not good for me. So I need to exercise my back and get back to a regime. You got a quick question. You uncovered some cards this week. Yes, I did. I did a video on trading cards that I bought last year. It's been watched by quite a few people. I've only had one I would consider negative comment on that. That person, all I can say to you if you are watching this is just have a think about whether you could come up with a constructive criticism. I wasn't offended by any of it, but of course I have to look at this and think, is this now going to be your new norm in regards to comments on this? And I have to sort of like think about that a little bit. And I don't like to take away like freedom of speech, but if you think of something is not great, or you shouldn't be doing something, then think about not watching it. You know what I mean? Rather than that, maybe there's something that you like here, but you don't like this aspect. Don't watch that aspect is what I'm pleading for you to possibly do. And but I will say this: I valued the comment, and I could understand how some things are portrayed, and that might mean I have to think about my stance with how on what I show and what I don't show. But I do also have to think about this: do I have the right and the need for me to show something, right? And remember, I do some of these things for family, like they might not know that their uncle or their brother or that is interested in this, and that it has a worth, or that it was something that I do, always think about that when people make a comment, and understand I didn't take offense by it. It was just, I think it could have been something that was off the point remark, without any worth to what I was actually trying to do. Yeah, maybe look at the hobby from other videos and see, is this worthless? Is this negative? And then come up with a constructive comment. And that's all I will say on it. And I value, by the way, all of that. So thank you very much for actually making the comment, because you took time to watch something, and that's appreciated. So you mentioned here that there's a quick question. You've put, you uncovered some cards this week. If you could create a retro gaming card set, what would it contain? What special chase variants would you have? Now, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, when you think about it. Well, most of my cards have been comic related, right? In the 90s and 80s, when I was into this hobby, I bought Marvel stuff because I love the artwork, right? I even thought at one point, cool, I could really do with a tattoo. What tattoo would I have? These little cards have got art done by top artists: Joe Jusko, Romita, Basima, all of this sort of stuff. Bernie Wrightson. I've got a Bernie Wrightson art set. Absolutely fantastic artist. Go and look him up. Bernie Wrightson. Absolutely fantastic, right? And these little cards, I found out, I think it was in the early 2000s, that a lot of tattoo artists buy cards because they have art and they can show them in their books as possible things that people can have. Now, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so all of this artwork is not just taken from the comics. They've been specially drawn, and
you can use these as a trace element for putting tattoos on. And I thought to myself, oh, if I ever did want a tattoo, I've got a load of artwork that I could just take in a card and say, I want that on my arm or on my back or on my ass or whatever, just a joke. But you know what I mean? So there is a worth to everything, I feel. I basically opened a set of boxes of trading cards that I bought last year, and they were a pittance. I happened to mention that you can buy trading cards that now cost £500 a box. I ain't got £500, Jesus Christ. And then you wouldn't have a set. But I can buy smaller boxes that they never sold. They were 60 quid at the time, but they've gone down to like 10 or 15 quid. And I can buy, one box, 2 boxes, maximum of 3, and open those, and it could be fun, right? Takes me back to all those old days. That was the point of it. So anyway, what would I do? So they're mostly comic book related, but I could go down the route of my other hobby, couldn't I? There's plenty of film cards as well, by the way, and TV cards. So I could go down the route of computers or arcades. So say we had 2 sort of sets. I could do an arcade set, and in this arcade set, I could do top games. I could do character cards like Pac-Man, Mario, all of this, and they've all been drawn by these artists. And the chase cards could be the cabinets or the pictures of the computers themselves. And on the back of the cards, it could have all the details like Z80 processor, this much RAM, all of this, year it came out, year it was stopped. All of this, like they used to have the power strips of how much your heroes were for strength, agility, and intelligence, and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I could have holographic cards of the computers, where you could see it in 3D, or a lenticular type, where you twist it and they move, and you could see the picture of the image, and when you turn to the side, you could see more of what's going on the right, more that's going on the left. Or you could do a game motion where you see Pac-Man eating the dots. You turn the lenticulation by twisting the card, and you see it eat the dots. Or grab a power pill and kill a ghost. Or fire a shot in Space Invaders, and you can see it trail up and hit the alien. All of that sort of stuff. And you could do years, like 1992, 1981, and all of this sort of stuff. And or a picture puzzle where it makes up the actual grid of what Pac-Man's grid used to look like, for each card. Puzzle piece type thing. And that goes for the second set, which would be home games. You could have things like Elite and Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I don't know. Metagalactic Llamas, Grid Runner, all of that sort of stuff, right? And then you could have the character cards, because there have been characters like Gianna Sisters and all of this sort of stuff. And you could do a set for Commodore 64, Spectrum, Amstrad, Amiga, Atari ST. You could go on for quite a bit. And yeah, you could do, again, metal cards, right? Metal cards showing your favorite character with a foil type surface that's shiny, because Mario famously, when he picks up some of his power-up type things, has a metal suit. I think that was in Mario 64, if I remember rightly, or was it Mario World? Could have been, not sure. But I know he has flying costumes and all that, so it's a bit difficult to know quite what game the metal suit was, but I think it was Mario 64. That could be a metal card. You could have Metroid. That's got a person that wears armor and could be metal. All of that sort of stuff. Yeah, interesting. I'd probably do it on one on arcade, one on home systems. Computers, you could even do a set for consoles. Yeah, so you'd have the PlayStation and the Xboxes and the Atari 2600 and, all the VCS, as I sort of like know it as. So, yeah. And the information on the back could be all the history and all of that sort of stuff, or the story that you're trying to tell in a card set based around Pac-Man, say, or Dig Dug, or
Mr. Do would be a brilliant one, wouldn't it? That's one of my favourite games. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic. And you put all the best to you and your mum, as always. Hope you both have speedy recoveries, and that's really nice. Thank you very much. And what a nice question, and one that I had to think about then. Wow, really like that. Gave me such happy thoughts. Brilliant. We move on to another great friend of mine, Robert's Retro Gaming, who's got a site and a YouTube, and I talk about it most weeks. And he's put, it was nice listening to you talk about all the things going on for you, even though some of these things are sad. Yes, and that there's always, I'd love to be able to come on and say, this week has been fantastic, not a thing's gone wrong, but no, unfortunately that doesn't happen. I hope your mum's health stabilises and improves in general after the fall and surgery. I hope you are able to recover fully from the strain and injury you also suffered, and all the best. And what a nice comment. That's all you ever need, isn't it? Something that picks you up, and that's absolutely fantastic. And I'll mention it again, but I mention it all the time. Do read the description of this blog. It's got some links to some of my friends, and of course at the end I used to do the what I've watched, and I'll try and do that this week, but I don't know how much time we've got. So if I don't, they'll be mentioned in full, I think, when things stabilize a little bit, or maybe I'll just go back to it. So thank you very much, and salute, my friend, and please go and watch his channel. Absolutely fantastic. And this one doesn't look like it was too long ago. It says here 15 hours ago. So you can see I'm not doing it in any particular order. This is for Rocket Bunny. And he's put, hi, Del. Just a quick note to wish you and your mum well. Hoping to hear some news in your next blog that she is coming out of hospital. Yeah, it's going to be, I think, next week. And I'm betting that once the equipment is in place, there'll be an assessment, and then there'll be a care package coming in, and then she'll be released. And I bet you that's going to be probably Wednesday, could be as early as Tuesday. And I should think that they're going to want to get people out before Easter, because Easter is next week. So, yeah, got to think about that as well. You continue. I have a busy week next week as my dad's turn for a hospital visit on Monday as he undergoes some pretty hefty skin cancer surgery on his leg. As he is my mother's primary caregiver, both my sister and myself are all hands on pumps, so to speak, over the next few weeks until he recovers. Fingers crossed it goes as planned. You're heading into the same area I'm now coming out of, and it really is so hard. So my best advice that I can give you, because I like to give advice, it's going to be a reaction type thing for yourself. It's not something that you can plan, right? So always have something in your head that you've got that block of space that you can do things in. Take information in. Don't instantly react, go away, think about it, come back. But you've got to have something in place the following day. You can't leave things for hours. And certain stuff are going to be, we need to know this now. Be prepared for that. We had that happen all the time, my sister and I, and we tackled it together. We had lots of conversations afterwards, and we talked about, we need to get things moving fast. Let's keep pushing to get this done, right? And you need to do that. And always, even if it sounds the obvious thing that they're going to be aware of, mention it anyway, right? You wouldn't believe how fast things are moving in the National Health Service. A perfect example is we need Velcro pads, right, for my mum to get changed because she's not going to be able to go to the toilet, right, and pull-ups are not going to work very well. The NHS have just been informed they're phasing those pads out, and the nurses have got to be trained up to put a pad on that doesn't have the Velcro pads because they're too expensive. So they're saving themselves 15 pence per pad, and they think that training up is the best way, and that will save millions across the board of the UK. And I think, wow, do you not think of the patient? Do you not think of these nurses don't have enough on their plate that they now need to learn how to put things on differently because you're taking Velcro away? Jesus Christ, it's so frustrating for me. Those are the things. Anyway, so you got fingers crossed it goes as planned. My question for you this week is about the season 21 Doctor Who Blu-ray set. Again, you say, and sorry. No, purposely. I'm hoping you've managed to finish it now. I have. If so, A, which thing were you most pleased about it? B, which thing were you most disappointed with? Crying out loud. I like the documentaries. I think that they've gone in a slightly different direction, and I like that. So that was good. I like the enhancements to some of the videos. You've mentioned many times that you thought that the Mercury, I think it's called, in Warriors of the Deep looks so much better. I like the fact that you can watch it as normal. So you can watch as it was broadcast and with the enhancements. I've always liked that. You've got 2 points of view and you're not taken away from how you remember it and how it was. That's the important thing. So that's brilliant. I've always loved the packaging, so there's nothing changed there. I've always loved the booklet, full of information. That's all there. So dislikes. Well, there's been a lot of talk about how AI is used for correcting things, right? That could be AI used to enhance the picture, AI to correct things that were broken, that sort of thing. AI is a tool, I appreciate it, but there is a petition out there to say BBC stop using AI. And I have to sort of 80% agree with it. There are some things that people have pointed out saying that because AI has been used, there's been the smoothing out of certain images, changing colours here and there, washing them out, all of this sort of stuff. Don't do that. I much prefer the hand method. That's just personally me. So that use of AI, I don't like. But the worst thing I think is quality control. Everybody has been mentioning the last 3 box sets that have come out have had something wrong. A disc is wrong. This is wrong in the image. The booklet is got misinformation in it. The packaging has become slightly lower quality. I've heard that. Yeah, quality control. Now, here's a perfect example. In that season 21 box set, it says there are 2 discs for Resurrection of the Daleks. One is the normal one. Second one is the enhanced one. But it actually makes it out that you can look at the original and the enhanced on both discs. You can't. You can only watch the enhanced on the second disc. The first disc only has one version. Okay, and you can't see anything but how it was transmitted. There is no enhancement version. From that point of view, the booklet's wrong. So, and the menu, therefore, does not match what the booklet says. So, go and look yourself, Resurrection of the Daleks. Go and look and see whether you've got a menu item that says show with enhancements. You will find on one of the discs you can't. But the booklet says you can. So, yeah, didn't like that. That's about it, really, other than I love the box sets. I think they're a fantastic thing. So much better than the old style, in my opinion. I like having things as a set in a deluxe packaging. I do love individual stuff, but that would really up the cost. And they're quite expensive anyway. They've gone from their original price, and I think the original price was $39.99 or £45. They are now nearly 60 in the time it's taken to get where we are now, and that is nearly all of them. So we've got the whole of the 80s now as seasons, but we haven't got all of the 70s and next to nothing of the 60s. So we really are at the crest of having a complete set, and the price is going up, and that means by the time we get to the end, I can see these being £100 for one box, and
that therefore means it's a very expensive thing to buy to have the whole set. But some people just buy the ones that they want. They like one particular doctor, that's all they want. They're not interested. And from that point of view, that's great. It's going to help you, because the costs are going to stop once you've got your doctor filled. You see what I mean? Much cheaper than the person who's buying the whole lot like me. So, yeah. You continue. For me, I was most pleased with the upgraded Warriors of the Deep. That's what we were talking about just now. The 5.1 mix of the soundtrack and updated effects. He likes that. In particular, the faster, more ferocious Merca. Yeah, it was Micra and Merca. I was then more disappointed with the updated effects on the Caves of Androzani. The monster effects were very minimal, and the new spaceship scenes were very poor, and actually slowed down the pace of episode 3 Cliffhanger, which is one of my favourites of all time. Yes, I don't know if anybody knows, but at the end of episode 3, the spaceship is about to land or crash into Androzani Minor, which is what the planet is called. You'll see that there is an effect that's actually used in the regeneration scene, and that's to give you a warning that the Doctor is approaching a regeneration scene. He is now at the point where he is disintegrating himself like the ship, and that's what it was imposed for. So when you look at that effect, it also has to mirror the effect of when he regenerates. That happens in the old version of it. So when the special effects are done in the enhancements, you have to do the same thing. So do they change the effects for 2 scenes? Do they just enhance it slightly on both? I think they went for the cheaper option. So yeah, I understand that totally. I will take a leaf out of Ian's book for this one and stick with the original model shots, which are very good for the time. Always nice to have the choice, though. That's what I was getting at. It's nice to have the enhancements. It's nice so you can look at the original. Case of Androzani is one of the most strongest stories in the history of Doctor Who. And I'm going on a little bit now. What I will give you is that Ian and I did a Doctor Who stream on Wednesday. We talked nothing but Doctor Who. If you're ever inclined to just know a little bit about Doctor Who, go back and look at Ian's channel. It's called Ian Hill, The Ramblings. And on Wednesday, we did a 100th episode, centenary type episode, and we concentrated on Doctor Who. It was a indulgence for us to, rather than do just films or anything. Yeah, it was an indulgence. Give us that indulgence. It was the 100th episode. We wanted something where we were sitting in a pub and we just went, you know what, let's talk about Doctor Who. Isn't it shit at the moment? Or whatever, it's that type of thing. So that's what we did. You end with take care and best wishes for you and your mum. Thank you so much. I wish I could go into a little bit more detail, but my mind is a bit frazzled at the moment. We will have that chat, matey. We will, as soon as you're out of the hospital situation like I am, we'll get things back to normal. Thank you so much for your efforts in writing something there. And we'll move on to another very close friend of mine, Steve Still Plays Games, who's got a site called, a YouTube channel just called that, and he's doing great guns with that. I watched that in the hospital with my little earpiece in. It's one earpiece so that I can hear what's going on with my mum and anything that goes around me. And it's really good because some of his videos now are taking a little bit longer because he's playing things like Dark Souls and stuff. So he's put, "Hi Del, I really don't know what to say about your mum. You're both going through a terrible time at the moment. I just hope things get better soon for both of you. On a side note, I seem to have been muted or blocked from commenting on Ian and your stream on a Wednesday." Now, I'll just comment about that. Ian is not technical, and YouTube have changed all the names of people when they come into a room. It doesn't now just say Steve Still Plays Games. It says Steve Still Plays Games 40761 or something, right? And you can't make, therefore, people moderators and stuff anymore. That means a moderator can't block you, can't do this. In fact, Ian and I are the only ones that can do it at the moment in his channel.
And I definitely wouldn't block Steve Still Plays Games, a very close friend of mine. And Ian is concentrating on reading out the comments, and he doesn't know how to do it. So there's no chance that it can be blocked from that. So it's actually YouTube. It's YouTube or some setting in your browser or something else. And I mentioned that I don't think it's you, and I don't think it's your browser. I think it's YouTube. But what I will do, I will try and contact Ian on Tuesday, say, and just go through and see if anybody's in what they call the sin bin, right? And if you're there, you'll be removed. But I can't see you being there. And if that's true and you can't comment, it's YouTube. And that means something has offended YouTube to stop you from commenting. And that saddens me, because there shouldn't be anybody like that unless they've really, we've really put them in the sin bin, you know, for coming in and saying this and that, which is all stuff from 2 years ago and all this sort of, you know, just trying to cause a fight. So those go, you know what I mean, instantly. And even other people would do that in their other streams. You know, we want a fun experience. We don't need crap. You know what I mean? And you don't do that, so I can't see it. You carry on. It was the same 2 weeks ago, but I assumed it was YouTube just glitching. But this week again was the same. I commented many times, but none of my comments actually appear in the chat window. So that's why I'm not chatting in there recently. I can't. But on to the question. So just going to let you know there. It's got to be YouTube, but I'll do everything I can on Tuesday to have a quick look at his settings. I'm the only technical one amongst us both that can possibly do that. So we'll do what we can for you, Steve. I don't know what else to say. I don't want you to go away and create another account so you can come in and chat, which would work. Don't get me wrong. But if you created a new account and you came in and chatted and you can't chat again, that's YouTube or something on your side. And I've got a funny feeling it's YouTube, matey. I really do. I don't know what else to say. Your comment is here, by the way, this week. It wasn't the other week. You put a comment, it disappeared. I didn't get to it. It's YouTube. Live with it is a horrible expression. And I think that you shouldn't live with that, and I'll do something about it. Question: what Amiga game deserved to be far, far bigger than it was, and which Amiga game was vastly overrated and not worth all the praise it got? All the best, my friend, and give my love to your mum, and hell for high water. Of course I'm going to. She actually knows who you are, Steve. So that's fantastic. I've mentioned your name so many times. Overrated is quite easy, because even I think everything universally, these two games are listed as being, oh my god, really? Was it that good? And that is Shadow of the Beast and Xenon 2. I mean, I don't even have to think about it. You can see my arms are crossed. I didn't do anything. Those two games, I look at them and go, for the time, they looked spectacular, but there's nothing to them. I mean, all that parallax scrolling. What is there anything going on in those planes other than making it look nice? Otherwise, you're side-scrolling along, hitting things. Great. Fantastic demo for the Amiga, and sold many Amigas, but as a game, shit. I never got on with Shadow of the Beast, and many of its sequels. I think there were 3. I think the third one was all right. And just got to pause for a moment. Hello, and that was my sister phoning up to say the clock didn't update on her phone automatically, so she ran late and went straight to the hospital because she sent me a text thinking I'd have read that text and gone myself to meet her at the same time as me going to see my mum. But of course, when I'm doing a blog, I have the volume down, and of course my clock did update, and so therefore I've got to cut this short as best as I can. But I am going to do the comments, and I said to her I'll be there within about 40 minutes. So we have got a bit of a time limit on this now. So where were we? I was dealing with Steve's question, and games that are disappointment, and I've mentioned the two, and really I've given a couple of comments on the reason why I think those games. There are many more, don't get me wrong. So many look like it was an effect that they did in a demo and they ran a game around it. And all of those ones I put into that shouldn't have got the acclaim that it did, right? So a game that's underrated, there's probably quite a few. I can't remember all of them, but there was one that I thought should have got more acclaim than it did. But it did well, don't get me wrong. It was a game called Walker. And you were this big robot thing. And there were lots and lots of little army type things. They were stick-like characters, but they were really well animated. And you had to shoot and tilt your head. It was like an Ed 209 type robot that walked really weird. And the backgrounds were lovely. And you had to fire at these grenade and machine gun firing little ones, which was really difficult to do. It's almost like a sideways scrolling Beachhead 2, you know, where you had your little gun firing at the enemy as they came and hid behind walls. It's almost like a sideways version of that. And then big things came on as well and took all of your energy away. And it was so hard. Don't think that really got the acclaim it should have got. I think it did get a good review, but it never sold really well. Maybe that's marketing. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Maybe it really did get an acclaim. But Walker is one that I saw late on. And so I think it should have got more acclaim. It's really hard. There's a game, and I can't remember what it was called. It was a little man on a dinghy, like a very small ship, and it went along the water, and you had to pick up these little what they called sprites at certain points, and you sort of like drifted left and right, and the effect was really nice. It was almost like going back to the days when Jeff Minter was working out control schemes, you know what I mean? And this drift effect and little animations were absolutely. It was a French game. I know it was done by a French company like Infogrammis or something like that. And you went along the water. The water had little ripple and light effects on it, and it was really nice. And you had to get to a certain point. Things were trying to kill you, so you had to shoot those, I think. Can't remember the game though, what the name of it was. But that, I mean, just shows you that it's probably a game that probably deserved more acclaim than it did. And I know it didn't do well, but it really looked nice. So that's underrated. I think that's it really. Most you know, that come to mind at the moment. There's probably a lot more, and if I had a better brain in my head at the moment, I'd come up with much better examples. But I hope that's answered your question in a certain way. I think you'll agree with me on the disappointments. Jesus Christ, man. Some of those games. Salute, my friend. Please go and look at his channel. And we then get to Ian Hill, the Ramblings. And let's see. He's a brilliant supporter of this. Got his own channel, by the way. He's put, "Hi, Delboy. Hope things have improved a bit, or at least not got any worse for your mum. The same for you too. Hope you are doing the best you can and getting through these difficult times. On Wednesday, it was very successful and enjoyable 100th live stream classic Doctor Who special. It worked well, and I felt we had a good interaction with our friends. The viewing figures were really good too. It's onwards now for our 200th episode. Thanks very much for including me as well. My God, 100 collaboration videos. Absolutely fantastic. You know, so many other people I'm jealous of a little bit, and I was jealous of them in the past. They were always invited onto the shows, always chatting, and they didn't have to think that it was their 100th episode together or anything like that, because it was just a natural thing that they did every Friday or every Monday or whatever. I liked to be invited onto those things. Got dead jealous when I wasn't there, and it's because I wanted to impart
some bits of information that I might have heard that week or whatever. But hey, everybody can be jealous about something. It's not something that's wrong or bad, is it? You know, we all want recognition. We all want a bit of slap on the back. Oh wow, he was nice and interesting to listen to, and all of that sort of stuff. I tend to find though things can get very stale, and you need to shake it up a little bit. So I think sometimes, you know, people can be on too many times, you know, then, you know, it's not, shouldn't be a staple point. That's why I've always said to Ian, if there was ever a time you didn't want me on, I totally understand. But he actually turns around and says, absolutely no chance of that happening. We have so many similarities on what we like, and we come from a period of time where he is about 10 years older than me. So he looks at things from that perspective. With me 10 years on, I look at things from a different perspective. We also came from two different areas of the country, and things were different where he was, and things were different where I was. And so, yeah, we meld. It's brilliant. On Wednesday, it was very successful. Yeah. Was to our 200th. He continues, my health has been the same. I've managed to cope with it. I'm still feeling cold a lot too, just waiting for the temperature to rise a bit more. And then he goes on, my Blu-ray player wouldn't work anymore, but managed to get a good Panasonic player replacement on eBay. It was a bargain. It didn't have hand control with it, but I have got some compatible ones. I've already watched a film on it and it looked great, so I'm very pleased with it. My 4K player would only play multi-region discs. Always think it's well worth looking on eBay rather than Amazon. Absolutely. You have to be careful. Panasonic, what a brand. I haven't bought anything but Panasonic for players. Must be 15, 20 years. I used to buy Sony. Used to buy, I think I've got one. No, that's a Sony down there. That's a Panasonic. That's a Panasonic. Oh, I did buy a Toshiba. That was during the HD DVD times where Blu-ray was also the second medium. I did buy a Toshiba then. But yeah, mostly Panasonics. Good brand, I think. Anyway, that's just me. You say, haven't watched as many films this week, but today I'm back. So that's good. Yeah, he's been a bit ill and time has been a bit difficult. Totally see that. A film I did enjoy this was The L-Shaped Room from 1962. It was one of the 60s kitchen sink dramas. There was some great locations. Always loved seeing 60s Britain. It was a great drama. The leading actress was French. She was wonderful. The story was about her being pregnant and wanting to keep the baby. Single mums were not looked upon favourable. People were encouraging her to have a backstreet abortion. I loved how she played a strong woman and had a relationship with a struggling writer. It had a powerful emotional ending. That sounds really good, doesn't it? Yes. I've watched films like Alfie and stuff and seen a side of Britain that I didn't know, and I had fun watching some of those with my mum and my dad, and they used to say, well, that miniskirt, yeah, do you remember miniskirts and all of this? I remember certain conversations like that going on. For me, I like the insights on the years that I was born, and I like the insights into history. That's why I like watching Henry VIII and Elizabeth I and all of those sort of stuff, to know that was how that was back then, right? They probably don't go into enough social side of things like poverty and how a lot of people made their own beer instead of going to inns, all of that sort of stuff, because they found cheap ways of fermenting and all of that sort of stuff. And it became, therefore, the drink of choice over water. Yeah, love all of that sort of stuff. So you continue. My question this week is, what are your favourite drama films with social realism? Oh my God, I've just talked about. So
getting Alfie out the way, and all of the Beatles films that they made, and all of that sort of stuff. What was that one called? Not Full Monty. I, Daniel Blake. That's it. I think that came out, God, it must be now 10, 15 years ago, possibly even 20. It's based on the welfare system. That's right. I watched it again, actually, when Mainmeister came for us to go to a Zap event. This was about 3 years ago. He happened to mention that there was a famous story that he tells in regards to about Dominic Diamond, and he said that he was working for a company that cleaned out the job centres, and so that sparked me to, when he'd left, to watch I, Daniel Blake, which is about the welfare system. I've only ever been in a job centre, I think, twice in my life. Once when I got sciatica, because I had to mention that I wasn't working, so you have to go down there. I wasn't getting any benefits because of my savings, but that was one time. And the other time was when I finished my YTS. I had no job to go to. And in the end, after 2 months, I went and worked in a supermarket. It was a horrible time for me. I really wanted to stay at school and do some better education for myself. But Mum said you had to get out there and get some money in and pay your rent now that you're of age. So that was that. So, yeah, I learnt about the welfare system on that. So I, Daniel Blake's one. I suppose Kes I've mentioned before, Kes is a great film, and I love that film. And it's about a boy who's quite not well off. He's poverty. He lives in the slum areas. It's set up north, and he befriends and trains a kestrel. It's a great social media element of the north and poverty up there. That's a great film with social backgrounds on how Britain was. But there are so many others. I mean, there's ones about football hooliganism, organised crime, all of that sort of stuff that have a social element. But those are more, I think, drama based around events that were going on than a story, if you see what I mean, based around social elements. You know, you could go on and say about the spy films, where you see Britain and how it was, but it's mixed in with a story. Do you see what I mean? So I don't count those as social media type dramas. So, I mean, let's see. Is there a social media one set in the States for my American friends? Is Steel Magnolias a social media type one? It's all about a bunch of ladies in America, what's going on in their community. One of them gets cancer and dies, and it shows off what life is all about. Yeah, I suppose that's one, isn't it? Like Steel Magnolias. Yeah. There's all sorts of films. You know, so I'm going to have to end it there because I've got to get moving, haven't I? But he's put all my best wishes to you and have a reet grand time. All I can say to you, Ian, is thank you so much for being such a great friend, a big supporter of me. I'm a big supporter of you. Great bloke. Don't know what I'd do with my week if it weren't for the fact that I go and see him and we have a lovely chat on Wednesdays. I think I'd be lost, to be quite honest. So thank you so much for letting me in as part of your life and your community. And that goes for all of the friends on your side that I now class as my friends as well. Cy Robson, Tony York, Jamie McMahon Movies, all of those people, absolutely fantastic people, all of them. And we all have great fun on Wednesday. So salute to you for definite. Moving on, and we've got my old mate, Mainmeister, who really got me into YouTube, to be quite honest. He's only put one line. He's put, "Sorry to hear about your mum, fella. Hope things start to improve." This prompted me to send a text message, actually, to him to say, sorry that I hadn't informed him of what's going on with my mum. And I put the reasons for it. I put, you're still one of my best friends. You're still somebody that I'm incredibly close with. But looking at your own life and your blog at the moment, I've noticed that you've got two things really that are coming across loud and clear. One, you're having a great time with acting and your gaming and all of the things that are going around in your life. But two, you've got some dark things going on in the background. You've had problems with your car, some things going on in your job, things going on in your home life that you don't need my negativity to affect the fun part that you're so holding on to. Do you see what I mean? So when it came to Mainmeister, I thought, I won't tell him my mum's just gone into hospital and all of that sort of stuff. And it's very difficult for me to arrange time in the evening to go and see what he's doing. In fact, he used to be, when you have a subscription, it usually shows the ones that you've watched the most at the top. Mainmeister started to slip down. And the only reason for that is I wasn't thumbing up his Sunday streams because I wasn't there. So, this is where I went, right, I'm going to have to go back and watch some of these videos. And I've gone back and he's back up now on the list because I finally got caught up with things. But, when I say I weren't watching them, it's just I was watching them for 10 minutes. It wasn't the hour. And I think that affects the algorithm a little bit. So thank you so much, my friend. And if you haven't guessed already, Mainmeister, he's been around for years, the old fart, right? Go and watch his channel. He's doing such great gun stuff. He's so pleased. By the way, he's done 3 films last year. And I put one of those films of the 3 in my Discord so that people that are part of my Discord could see he's done a video. I had no other real way of putting a link to these films, so I'm mentioning them here. And they're absolutely brilliant. They're horror related. Myself being in a film as well, I was in a film called Apocalypse, where I was a zombie, realised just what effort goes into these things. I was in makeup for 4 hours, putting on prosthetic type stuff and blending it in. I had to bring my own clothes. This was a low budget type thing. And they dirtied that up, ripped it, put holes, put blood on it and all this sort of stuff. And then waited until the scene was there. I had to actually go and learn how to fall properly by a stunt team because I was a zombie that was going to be killed. So I had to learn how to fall, all this sort of stuff. And I had the pleasure of being able to see how the camera works, how changes to the script were happening. I saw all the runners running around. Jesus Christ. No wonder they're called runners. Bloody hell. I saw the catering while you were waiting as an extra. The catering was awful, by the way. It was disgusting. I'm glad I brought sandwiches. Fun times. Thank you so much, Mainmeister. I must move on because I've got to go and see my mum. So, salute, my friend, and I'll try and be there this Sunday. We moved to Colin Jones, aka Ponder. What a great mate he is. I so want to meet him. so want to meet him. I've actually even gone into my Discord at the moment, starting to put things in relation to arcades that are around my area in a hope that it might encourage people to not keep having to do them in Leeds or Manchester because I can't get to them. And the ones that I've put up are in Milton Keynes and Walsall and places like that. And I'm hoping that maybe they might come down a little bit further. It's a yes that it'll ever happen. But time is short and it's really difficult for me. But I'm a bit jealous that these people are going to these events and I can't. 3 years ago, could have done. And I didn't know them then. Now I know them, can't do it. It hurts. But this is why I so look forward to doing things with my friend Jambon. Another person that I should have mentioned, that although he's not commenting, is still around. We go to Pinfest, which is 17 miles up the road for me. And we play pinball. And once a year we do that. And I so look forward to that event. I count down the seconds to go to that event. I've now got a greater appreciation of pinball machines, which I never had before. Who'd have thought me, who so pushed for gaming, like arcade games, even the old style Astro Wars and so forth that were handheld machines. I so pushed for those and went, pinball, nah, bollocks. I'm crap at them, don't like them. And now I'm going to events where there's hundreds of them and it's free and I can go along and play them. And then I can learn about video pinball and get an appreciation of those and VR pinball and all of that sort of stuff. And then I can actually see the actual pinball itself in its mechanical form at this event. What a lovely thing. Fantastic. Anyway, so want to meet you, Colin. Here we go. You can only push so much about yourself aside. You have to keep yourself well so you can look after your mum. Thank you, Dad. We'll move on. Glad to hear there are good improvements with your mum, but by heck, there's a lot to deal with when she comes home. Daunting. Sending my regards. Thank you so much. I do not want or trust fully autonomous cars. Assist technology is fine, but full self-driving, they can shove where the sun don't shine. Yeah, totally understand that. I've pretty much tried to say that, but I also tried to show the good in things, like an automated car that only goes between 2 points, that has to deal with getting somebody to the hospital or something. I just know that it's the wrong time, the wrong thing, and trying to push that is wrong. Okay? We're not there yet. Lots more to do in that aspect because you can't judge the unexpected. People walking out or whatever. You can have these sensors and cameras and all of this sort of stuff, but it is based on the high-end technology that we've got, which is, I think, still not good enough. You've got to get those sensors better. You've got to get those cameras better. You've got to get the programming that goes in to judge every particular problem that could occur. Things go wrong, and the more you break things down, the more the break points are. And I'm not a fan of it. Perhaps I should start prompting friends' channels, but just because I don't currently, it doesn't mean I don't appreciate everything you all do. I know you know this, but I'm just stating it out loud. Yeah, I've made a big thing about it, I suppose, in mind that I read out comments and I read out channels that I've watched, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate others that I don't mention. And that's very, very true. And I suppose if you get into the habit of what I've done, which is every week, and that means, how many now did I say? 214 videos of mentioning videos. If you start don't mentioning certain channels, they go, oh, what have I done wrong? Yeah, it can look that way, can't it? Which is why you comment and say, I just want to say for the people that commented, here's these names, because you show an appreciation. Yeah, totally get it. And as you say, I know it already. The way I see it, I have such a small reach. And those who watch me are generally in the same group as those who watch you and my other friends too. I also don't put anywhere near the time and effort into my vlogs as you do because I'm a bit lazy. on that sort of thing. That's a load of bollocks, Colin. You put in loads of effort. The way you describe things, you turn around and said, oh, I had to phone this. And I tell you what, load of bollocks. Customer service, shit, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and I bought this, and I assembled this, and I watched this, and it made me think that I needed something 3D printing for this. Bollocks to you. You're not lazy. I know what you mean by lazy. You're saying I don't do this camera angle, like where I do this on here, look, my overhead cam and all of this sort of stuff, right? Gimmicky. I do it because there are so many other things I need to show that require that type of technology. You don't need that, but you find it fun to have it. I know that you fiddled about with sound, and you're always talking about I've got a relay system and a mesh network and all of this sort of stuff. So don't ever put yourself down. I'll tell you what, if you do, I'm bigging you back up. I'll push against that as hard as I possibly can. Anyway, okay then, here's a question. He says, I'm tasking you with building a desktop arcade system. How would you go about this? I'll compare your ideas on what I have planned which is very much in progress. Oh, wow, what a question. A desktop arcade. Let me think. Well, when you're building a desktop arcade, you might be thinking it's portable a little bit. So if you're going to do something that's portable, weight is going to be something that you're going to have to consider. I suppose it's going to be made of plywood. It needs to be robust. It needs to be heavy enough that it's not going to slide about. Because it's a desktop, it's probably going to be limited by the fact you couldn't have a CRT in it, which is a shame. Which means you're going to have to go down the OLED or the LCD route, and you're going to have to think about size of the screen. But I suppose you could do something where it flips up like a laptop, and it has connections to allow you to actually port it to a different screen. That's going to require quite a bit of technology in regards to different types of output. So I think I'm going to base the whole thing around a Mister. I can't show you my Mister. Maybe I can. If I go to overhead cam again. Where is it? There. Can I? No, it's all tied in. It's actually here. And the wires have pushed it so that the wires don't stretch. So apologies for that. So it'll be based around a Mister. I dare say I would use 3D printing for things like the bezels and the masking. Possibly sort of like plastic rings around the joystick so that they stop dust from getting in, like those sort of covers that you can slide down. I'll probably 3D print those. Yeah, it's going to have to be plywood, isn't it? Or some type of thing. I tell you what, the hardest thing that I find with a desktop machine is, and with any machine, including a full one, is the controllers. There are so many different types of controllers. You've got trackballs, joysticks, 4-way, 8-way, twisting, grip handles, spinners, all of that sort of thing. And you can't put them all on this one with 8 buttons and all of that sort of stuff for every type of arcade game that you want to play. They were all designed to be on individual units, and so therefore they did them as a lovely custom type thing. And you're then stuffed later on when you're doing this, where you incorporate them all into one thing. I was going to mention later on that they've done this thing on This Week in Retro. I forgot what it's called. It was like a snack adapter. It's every joy port everywhere all at once. So this guy has done all the different ports in one little PCB that you plug into it, and you can then put all different controllers. What I think I'd do is I'd go a different route than that. I think I would do an individual unit you modularly bolted on. So it has one connector, possibly USB. It came in a block, so this would be one block for a trackball, one block for a joystick, one block for a twist grip, one block for a spinner. And because it's a desktop unit, the front would be totally empty and it's slotted in through that, and you would then have that one controller that did that one thing for these particular types of games. And when you wanted to go back to a normal joystick, you pulled it out, you'd put the joystick one in, and it would be the standard one with 8 buttons and all of that sort of stuff. The Mister, I think, would be perfectly capable of doing that with that adapter. I think you would need... Now, I did look at this a year ago when I was looking at fixing my Nintendo 10. There is what they call a zero delay USB encoder kit, analog kit, and it takes away latency. It's a special kit. It plugs into many different types of arcade jammer machines and jammer harnesses and all that sort of stuff, and it takes away the lag. And it's called a zero delay USB. So you basically, USBs can have this effect of giving you lag, which takes you away from the instant action you need in an arcade machine. So I'd look into the zero delay kit. And all of this, and I haven't covered it so far, you have to be mindful on weight, power, and optional extras like bezels and light displays and stuff. I'd probably keep those down to a minimum. I'd probably incorporate 2 speakers with a bass inside it, because the bass is a sub-channel that doesn't need to be in the foreground. And I'd try to keep the weight as low as possible so I could port it. Which is why I went with the plywood type thing and the LCD thing, and possibly even the LCD bolts on. Could even do that. So it'd just be a bolt unit. So it would end up being like a keyboard type thing that you bolted things on. But anyway, I think I've given some options there. I know that you love your bomb jack and you've got just a PCB that's a skeleton thing at the moment. I think you know where I was going with what I was trying to do, and hopefully I've got your question right. Thank you so much for your comment, Colin, and I hope I've given a good enough answer. I don't have too much time, so I must get on. But we've now got Martroyd, who says, I'm off for another little camping adventure next week, Del. Got to squeeze it in before the cold kicks in. So if I go a bit quiet on the next vlog, I'm probably just chasing Wi-Fi in the middle of nowhere, still watching though. Take it easy, mate, and really glad to hear your mum's doing a bit better. Catch you in the next one. That's perfectly fine, matey. Have a fantastic camping adventure. Sounds wonderful. Haven't been camping in years. Salute, my friend. And the last comment is from Wee Bob. He's put, great to listen along and nice to hear about some improvements with your mum. All the best wishes to you and your family. I am heading to bed, so just a quick response from me and a quick question. So the question is, what are your go-to games for a quick distraction? Games that are not that involved. They're all arcade, matey, and they're all on the Mister. There are a few Steam games. I've been playing that Sectori type game quite a little bit, but I do love going back to the old roots of playing Jeff Minter shoot 'em ups, Robotron, Berserk, all of those ones that you're well aware of, matey. If you, I'm probably not giving you anything that goes, oh, I can go and get that now. But I did play some in my live streams, and those were quick ones. If I was to give anybody like what is your go-to game when you're not able to play something that needs a lot of effort, I did play some racing games, I did play some shoot 'em ups and all of this sort of stuff in an area called random games in my playlist, and live streams. Just go to the live stream section, go to the end, and you'll see that I started off doing live stuff and showing games that I was playing at the time, and a lot of those were racing games, shoot 'em ups, all of that sort of stuff. So, but I tell you what, every single game that was in my first season of Friends Request Games to me where I did about 60 odd games, all go-to games. Every single one I had fun with. I don't think there were many where I went, what a bag of shit that is. I'm glad I don't have to play that again. There weren't many of those. They were just challenges. So, yeah. But I would encourage you to play that Sectori type game. I think it's called Sectori. Go and have a little look at that. It's got the name of it. It's got a link in there as well where you can buy it. And it's cheap. Oh, another game, Shatter. Oh, yeah. I play Shatter a lot. That's a fan. I'll tell you why I play that. Visually, it looks great. It's very, very easy to pick up and play. And the soundtrack is so good that you get a copyright strike every time you try and play it and show it off to anybody. So, yeah, the soundtrack you can buy as an album, I think. Yeah, it's one of those ones where they've actually released it as a soundtrack. So, there you go. And that's the end of the comments. So, I really do have to go and see my mum. So, I'm just going to mention a couple of things. This week in retro was quite good on what I watched on YouTube. Every Joyport Everywhere All at Once was one subject. Commodore is growing, although I don't think they expanded enough ideas into where Commodore is going. I think they will touch the Amiga. They're just concentrating on the Commodore 64 Ultimate at the moment. And then there was Meeting Legendary Minds. And that is where you meet some of your heroes at events and stuff. All very interesting stuff. Loved This Week in Retro this week. Loved the Techmoan as well. He did a 2-in-1 review. He did a Maxell MXCP Pro and a Snowski Echo Mini comparison. One is a Walkman. The other one is an MP3 player that looks like a Walkman because it's got an LCD display and shows you the tape reels running around. Both, well, I'll let you go and watch it. That's the best thing. If I tell you they both were shit, then you won't bother probably watching it because I've told you the ending. But go and watch it. You'll be surprised. The gadget show I watched this week was what are the best-selling games accessories ever. They could have gone more on that. I don't think they did enough. And chronologically gaming, he's still in 1982, but it was fun because he showed off a game on the Tony Tutor, which I never really saw or in our shops over here. So it's interesting to see those games. I'm going to mention some people here because I think they deserve it, and all the others all deserve it as well. But I have to cut it short a little bit. Ian Hill, The Ramblings, did a shit ton of stuff. My top 5 westerns between 1969 and 1972. A Doctor Who review of The 10th Planet, a fantastic episode, by the way, 10th Planet. X-Files review, season 6, episode 4. What I've watched, episode 11. And he did a live with me on Wednesday. It was our 100th live stream together. Brilliant. Just Joshings is the sad news. He's decided that he's moving on. He's not going to do the reviews anymore. He's got a career to think about. The films that he's been buying, he feels, are just clutter now around the house. There were certain examples he lifted off of his shelf saying, this film, watched it once, stuck on my shelf, and I have no intention of watching it over the next couple of years. Junk. Think I'll sell them on. And I totally understand. When you get to a certain point, you go, I can't really go any further. For me, it's a very, very sad day for Just Joshings. Who used to be called Through the Lens, because I don't think he'll give up going to the cinema. And if he's going to the cinema, he could still do his hobby of talking about films he went to see at the cinema, right? He could do an easy 10-minute review. It will take next to nothing out of him for his for his work that he's talking about. So I find it a very sad day. And I think you already know about Commode and Mayo's take and all of that sort of stuff. I will mention Mondo Chelovic movies. He always does a great video. His stuff was there. And then we get to the Game and Tech YouTube stuff, which is Down the Rabbit Hole, Robert's Retro Gaming, Steve Still Plays Games, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, 20th Century Gaming, Wee Bob Art, and Mainmeister. I'll mention a few things that these people have done. Down the Rabbit Hole did a PSVR2 Demio versus Dungeons and Dragons review. And he's doing it as a D&D player. So he played this game called Demio. I've got it. a sort of version of it. It's a Dungeons and Dragons game in 3D where you can rotate the board. It's all lovely graphical stuff. You roll the dice, all these things are going on, but you're doing it, and you can have a load of other people join you and play it. It really is nice. Does it take it away from the Dungeons and Dragons experience? I wish I could tell you, because I wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, but I had no bloody friends to actually do it with. He did, because he played Star Frontiers. So I found that very interesting. He did another video about a decanter, but go and have a look yourself. It's brilliant. And Robert's Retro Gaming, what can I say about him? He did Dwarf Fortress Classic, Minecraft play, some C64 play, some Atari play. There's one video every day virtually, and usually more. So that's one you've got to watch. And Steve still plays games. He's just expanding and expanding and expanding. He did his Dark Souls. I think he's up to episode 11. He did a BBC game. He did a Spectrum game. He did a Mainmeister high score kerfuffle experience with a game that I actually commented on his site and said, do you know what? You're encouraging me to actually do a live stream on Friday or Thursday or Friday. But he never replied to it. So I thought, well, he may not think that that's a very good idea. So I didn't do one. Didn't do it in the end. I felt a bit bad actually, because I should have done really, but there you are. It's not just that he didn't answer, it's just I just went, nah, probably not the wisest thing in the world for me to show off how bad I am at a game. So it was just great seeing him die a lot in that game, so that was great for me. And obviously Colin Jones has done his cycle adventures. There was a little bit of a problem with the first video I watched. Things were flashing on the screen a little lot, but he's replaced that now. Definitely worth a rewatch if you haven't done that. Bloody stupid drivers on the road is all I got to say. And then you've got 20th Century Gaming, who did a Beyond the Forbidden Forest, where to stand when you want to kill the Hydra video, which is brilliant. It's a long worded thing, but it's great. And he did a live stream last night, and he played a game that I suggested to him. So that was really, really nice of him. Wee Bob Art is doing this fantastic little series called Project Zomboid Episode 3. I love it because of all the voiceovers. They sound like Morgan Freeman, the voiceovers. But I just love it, watching somebody play that game. I tried to play it, got nowhere in it. So, bear that in mind. And Mainmeister, my old friend Mainmeister, I did get to see his waffle. And I commented while he was doing his Friday waffle. And I did get to see some of his film shorts. But if you do go on a Sunday, you will see that he's doing, I think, Llamasoft games at the moment, which is a bastard thing to do, because I was going to do a Llamasoft special. Llamasoft being one of my favourite developers. And I've got so much experience with playing VIC-20 and Commodore 64 games from Llamasoft. Not so much the Steam stuff, although I have bought it all. But I just haven't played those as much as the old days. And that's it. Let's go to the overhead cam quickly. We've done already a couple of times. The only thing that's come through is this box set of Ben-Hur. It's a 4K edition. I've been waiting years for this. So I pre-ordered it. Must have been October, November last year. It's just come through. So I'm really glad to have that. And then one that I thought I cancelled, believe it or not, which is a steelbook of the Prestige. And I'll do a freeze frame of that if you want. Look, there you go. It's a nice looking steelbook, but I should have probably have cancelled that one. So it's bought now, so there's not a lot I can do. The Ben-Hur one, I'll just do that so that you can see a snapshot of it. Hopefully it's in a good enough resolution for you to do that. I have upped the resolution of my camera there because I didn't realise it was on such a low resolution. So there we go. Those are the only two things that have come through. And that's the end. Thank you so much. Remember, this is a diary, not a blog. Do not be offended. Do not think that everything I've said is gospel. Don't go out there and do these things because I say it or mention it. My thoughts, my feelings are all out in a diary. You should take that as a note if you've got this far. And that's all I can say, other than love and respect everyone. Love every day. I'm looking forward now to going to see my mum, and I'm being taken away by this. So I'm going to say salute, thank you very much. See you in the next one, and this time my mum will be home. So back to normal, the new norm. Bye-bye.